The Church of Christ. The Church of Christ is the Church of Christ.
Hello and welcome to the Joseph Villegas podcast. Glad that you can join me today. And today we are just going to do a part one. So next week you'll get the part two to this, Lord willing. And today we are going to be studying about the church that we read about in our Bible, the Church of Christ. So, um, so today I want to talk about the Church of Christ. When it started and who it is. So, you may be asking, well, why didn't he say what it is? Well, you see, there's a reason why I said who it is, because the church is actually not a building or a place, as I'm sure many of you know, but the church is actually a group of people. So first I want to talk about what a church is. So a church is not a place or a building. A church is a group of people. So the word church comes from the Greek word ekklesia, which means the called out ones. The church is a group of people, so the Church of Christ is the called out group of people who belong to Christ. So, the first place I want to start in this study is, in this part one for this week, is Matthew chapter 16, verses 13 to 20. So I'll go ahead and read that, and I'm reading out of the New King James Version. Says, when Jesus came unto the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, who do men say that I am? Who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am? So they said, some say John the Baptist, some Elijah, and others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. He said to them, but who do you say that I am? Simon Peter answered and said, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Jesus answered and said to him, blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And I also say to you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades shall not prevail against it. And I will give you the keys of the kingdom, and whatsoever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatsoever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Then he commanded his disciples that they should tell no one that he was Jesus the Christ. So Jesus says to his disciples that he will build, he says to his disciples, I will build my church. So Jesus built his church on the confession that Peter made, that Jesus is the Son of God. In this passage, Jesus also said that he will build his church, meaning that in the context of this passage, in this time period, whenever Jesus said that, the church was not built yet, because Jesus said, I will build my church. So pay attention to verse 19, what he told Peter, that Peter will get the keys to the kingdom. So if we turn to Acts chapter 2, we can see there is where Peter used those keys unlocking the kingdom of heaven, aka the church. So the kingdom in heaven, the kingdom of heaven and the church are the same thing. Some people get that confused. So just know that anytime you see the kingdom of heaven, it's talking about the Church of Christ. So Peter used those keys to the kingdom in Acts chapter 2. The day in Acts chapter 2 is recording like the day of Pentecost, whenever he preached the first gospel sermon to them. So Jesus built his church, as we read in Matthew chapter 16. He said, I will build my church. Peter, I'm going to give you the keys to the kingdom. Right? So, and when were those keys to the kingdom used? Well, they were used in Acts chapter 2, the day of Pentecost. So, Jesus said, I'm gonna build my church. Peter, I'm gonna give you the keys to the kingdom. And, um, and yeah, Acts chapter 2, day of Pentecost, Peter preaches his first gospel sermon. That's whenever the Church of Christ was established, was on the day of Pentecost. So we'll just leave it off there. I know this is kind of a shorter video, um, but we'll just leave it off there. That's part one, and hope that you guys can join me for part two. Lord willing, that'll be next week. Um, but so very thankful that you guys can join me and for all the support. Leave a like. That really helps out with the videos. It helps us to share the message. Comment, subscribe, share the video with others. Um, I'm really, my prayer is to grow this YouTube channel, not for my glory, but for God's glory. Because, I see that there's a lot of YouTube channels out there that teach false doctrine. And, you know, I really, want to share the truth. And so if you could help me out by leaving a like, sharing the video, and subscribing, so we can continue to study about the church that we read about in the Bible. So yeah, love you guys. Have a great day.
Life, the Church of Christ. The Church of Christ is the Church of